Ever run into that trader? You know the type, the one who can't resist bragging about their latest win.
Oh yeah, we've all seen them. Online, at events, always gotta let you know they're killing it.
Right. And today we're diving deep into that, the psychology of the trader brag, how to keep it from messing with your head.
It's fascinating stuff, really. Even in trading, a field that seems so objective. You see these human emotions, insecurities come out.
Totally. And the source material we've got for this deep dive, it really gets into all that. It's not just like ignore negativity, be positive. It actually breaks down the psychology of why bragging works, why it gets to us.
One of the big things is this social comparison theory. We're wired to size ourselves up against others, especially when we're not so sure of ourselves. So when someone's going on and on about how great they're doing trading, it triggers that urge to compare, even when we know it's not helpful.
And that's where that negativity bias comes in, right? Like our brains just latch on the negative stuff more easily.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like that song you can't get out of your head, but it's a bad song. Those negative comparisons can really stick with you, even if you don't realize it's happening, eating away at your confidence.
The source has this perfect example, these two traders, Tim and James. Tim's always posting his winning trades, screenshots and stuff, captions like easy money, another day, another win. But what he doesn't show are the times he lost big or made a dumb move. He's creating this image, this perfect trader image, which could be so misleading, especially for someone like James, who's newer to all this.
Totally plays into our desire for those shortcuts, those easy answers. We see someone who looks like they're winning without even trying, and we think, man, am I doing something wrong? Is there some secret I'm missing?
It's like those get-rich-quick schemes you see all over the internet. They prey on that desire for instant gratification, even though deep down we know it's too good to be true.
And the real danger is that it can push you to abandon your plan. The plan you carefully thought out. And you start making these impulsive decisions, taking more risk than you normally would, all because you're trying to keep up with this image, this fake image someone else is putting out there.
So how do you not fall into that trap? The source talks about building this unshakable confidence.
Yeah.
But how do you actually do that when you're seeing all this effortless success all over the place?
It's not easy, I'll tell you that. But one thing that can really help is keeping a good trading journal. And I mean detailed, tracking not just the wins, but the losses too, and really dig into those losses.
So being honest with yourself about the whole picture, not just the good parts.
Exactly. When you look at both your wins and losses objectively, you get a much more realistic view of how you're doing. You're not so swayed by someone else's highlight reel because you have your own data to look at.
Makes sense. It's about focusing on your own stuff, your own metrics, not comparing to someone else's carefully crafted image. But I'm guessing finding a good trading community helps too, right? A place where you can talk about your experiences, learn from each other without feeling like you have to put on a show.
Absolutely. Having those people around you, people who get it, the challenges of trading, it's so valuable. But the key is being picky.
You mean being choosy about who you let into your trading circle. Not everyone who says they're a trader is worth your time.
Exactly. Find people who are genuinely into learning, into growing as traders, not just bragging about their wins. Pay attention to how they talk about their trades. Do they admit when they mess up? Do they offer support, encouragement? Or is it all about boasting and trying to be the best?
This is making me think about who I follow online, the communities I'm part of. Are they really supportive? Or am I just getting more of that negativity bias without realizing it?
That's a great question to think about. And remember, it's okay to be picky. You don't have to follow every guru or be in every forum. It's about making a good environment for yourself, online and offline. So if you do run into one of these braggarts, how do you deal with them directly? Should you call them out, ignore them, try to talk sense into them?
Well, that's a great question, and it's something we'll dig into right after this.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about why people brag and how build up your own confidence and find a good community. But what about when you can't avoid these braggarts? What are some strategies for dealing with them right then and there?
Well, one of the biggest things to realize is that they're bragging. It's often more about them than you. It's like they're projecting their own issues, their own insecurities, or maybe it's a way to deal with their own losses.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's like they're trying to convince themselves as much as they're trying to impress everyone else.
Exactly. By putting you down, they're trying to feel better about themselves. It's like a defense mechanism.
So should we just ignore them, pretend we don't hear all those boasts and the little digs?
Ignoring them, that can definitely work, especially if it's just kind of a minor annoyance. But sometimes you gotta be a little more assertive, especially if they're constantly trying to undermine you or mess with your trading.
So what are we supposed to confront them? Like call them out on their BS?
Not necessarily confrontational, but you can set some boundaries. You know, like if someone's always bragging about their wins, you could gently steer the conversation in a different direction. You could say something like, "That's great that you're doing well, but I'm really focused on my own strategy right now."
I like that it's direct, but not aggressive.
Right. You're acknowledging what they said, but not letting it throw you off track. Another good strategy is reframing their comments. Like, if someone's going on about making a quick buck, you could point out the risks involved or talk about the importance of consistency over time.
So kind of shifting the focus away from those short-term wins to a more sustainable approach.
Exactly. You're subtly challenging their definition of success without getting into an argument.
The source also mentions that sometimes these braggarts, they just want to feel validated. Maybe they're insecure about their own abilities, and they're looking for someone to reassure them.
That's a really important point. It's about understanding why they're acting that way. Instead of getting defensive or taking it personally, maybe try to see it as them needing some help.
So instead of shutting them down completely, maybe offer a little empathy or support.
Yeah, sometimes just a simple, "Hey, I know trading can be tough, but I'm sure you'll figure it out," can make a difference. It might even calm things down and stop them from bragging so much.
This is all great advice, but I'm also thinking about those times when the bragging, it's not really about insecurity. It's more like they actually believe they're better than everyone else.
Yeah, the classic narcissist. They're not looking for validation. They want to be admired.
So how do you handle those types? Do any of these strategies still work?
Honestly, in those cases, it's often best to just limit your interactions with them as much as possible. Minimize contact and focus on your own goals. Remember, you can't control how they act, but you can control how you react.
That's a good point. It's about protecting your own mental space and not letting their negativity drag you down.
And remember, their need to constantly brag, it's often a sign of weakness, not strength. It shows a lack of real confidence and a need for outside validation.
So in a way, we can almost feel sorry for them. They're stuck in the cycle of trying to prove themselves, never really feeling satisfied.
Exactly. And by recognizing that we can separate ourselves from their need for attention, we can decide what success means to us and not let their bragging dictate how we feel about ourselves as traders.
This has been so eye-opening. I feel like I have a whole new set of tools for dealing with these braggarts.
And don't forget, the most important tool is your own mindset. Develop that strong belief in yourself and a clear vision for what you want to achieve with your trading.
And find a supportive community that values real growth and learning, not just empty boasts.
Exactly. With the right mindset and the right people around you, you can handle those psychological challenges that come with trading and reach your full potential.
Well said. Before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to go back to something we talked about earlier. The idea that sometimes these braggarts are actually hiding their own losses or insecurities. I think that's a really important point that we should explore a little further. It's like they're putting out a front. Aren't they trying to hide those doubts and fears behind this image of like the ultimate trader?
Yeah, it's classic overcompensation. The more they brag, the more they might be trying to convince themselves that they're actually doing well.
And that's what makes it so tricky, because it means you can't always trust what they're saying. They might be sharing the wins, but what about all the losses they're not talking about?
Exactly. The source even mentions that some of the loudest braggarts are actually losing money overall. They're just trying to distract you with a small win and hide the bigger picture, which isn't so great.
Like someone showing off a fancy car, but they're secretly drowning in debt. Just a facade.
Makes you think, doesn't it, how much of what we see online, especially in trading, is just a carefully crafted image, and how do we learn to see through that, to make decisions based on reality, not someone else's carefully constructed persona?
That's a good question. I mean, we talked about building confidence and focusing on our own progress, but how do we protect ourselves from being fooled by these braggarts, especially when they seem so convincing?
One thing you can do is focus on the process, not just the outcome. Anyone can have a lucky streak, but real success in trading it. It comes from consistently applying a solid strategy, managing risks effectively, and always learning and adapting.
So instead of getting caught up in someone bragging about a single trade, we should be asking ourselves, what's their overall track record? What's their risk management like? Are they actually making money in the long run?
Exactly. And remember, you don't need to see their private trading statements to figure this out.
Yeah.
Just pay attention to how they talk about their trades. Are they focused on the process and what they learned, or are they just fixated on how much money they made?
That's a great point. It's about looking deeper, trying to understand their approach to trading, and if they're not willing to share that, or if it seems shaky, that's a big red flag.
And another thing to remember is that genuine traders who are confident in their skills, They don't need to brag all the time. They're more focused on their own growth and development.
They're not looking for validation from other people. They're driven from within, which is much more sustainable, in trading and just in life.
Absolutely. So the next time you run into a trader who's trying to impress you with their boasts, remember they're bragging. It might actually be a sign of weakness, not strength. Could be a way of hiding their own insecurities, losses, or lack of real skill.
That's a powerful realization. It really takes the power away from them. Their attempts to make you feel less than you can choose to see it for what it is. A desperate attempt to boost their own ego, not a reflection of your worth or your potential as a trader.
And remember, you have the power to create a positive and productive trading environment for yourself. Focus on your own growth, surround yourself with the supportive community, and don't let the mind games of others derail you from your goals.
This has been a really insightful deep dive. We've explored the psychology of trader bragging, how it can affect our mindset and our decisions, and most importantly, how to protect ourselves from its negative influence. We've learned that confidence, discernment, and a focus on the process are key, and maybe most importantly, we've discovered that bragging is often a sign of weakness, not strength. So to our listeners, the next time you encounter a trader who's trying to throw you off your game with their boasts, remember what we've talked about today. Focus on your own journey. Celebrate your wins, learn from your losses, and let their empty boasts fade into the background. Happy trading.